Yo Yamamo Aquabashroom Koso Ebio Ediba POG Media so Mr. Safi and Waba Uber subscribe na like a Jubedino Ede Amaya Ubitimin so Ashe Jumedino na for and so I can be kindly click on the notification bell no so send it ya any news be to platform no so I want so wo no the air call and the air by young consum num na yemfa in some no embro tiltewa ye bo Ede Era eye akwatia ene eye fantia kwa na ya enim say honomo no eye during the election and after the election about the election declaration no eye wentwi kakra bi ba ho ema ye de echo eye tesano echo kind for eye recollection ne ho enko ne ba me yeje eye abano ewo akwatia edema eye yira Ernest kumia chese na ujine mu ede ama NPP amanyo ku no na wei na yira Henry na ujine mu ede ma NDC amanyo ku no ehu ye no se there bi sisie enti no ode call court se court enhwe ensem no na onka na wei na court no enede yo ma hwe ye the injunction na NDC de buy no mafo aso ene honkro ne ba chese omuchema yira Ernest kubi yentimi enso any in for the 9th parliament na chese honso no eja atoho ehonum ehuru pa yi na fanti akwade no so judge a ote asem no so echemu a ono judge ni no ono no fanti akwa honum na odi asem no ho ena chese ote eho no free ne yere ne manyina no omo ehwa na omo asoye de ewonti no no asem no de ontimi endi enti ehon so no injunction no ejinemu a ene ono so fanti akwanso yentimi nyedem yentimi enso any ina judge no petition supreme court and as a chief justice say chief justice enhwe na judge foforo embrambet na asem no so ache say enye agrokra ochemufo no edensem bebre atodwa yenko na yenkonkotie medamase
Yetwa so yenkopie mu ewo akwatia bato mpesua no Swėar na no ada o man Ghana yekogina simpia hodo anim ekoto aba December 7th na ekwa wi ache kopie mu ewo akwatia bato mpesua no so a abato ni sunso no eba ye no mentime ho ase kese na esi ye ewo hono NS yakumi ya wono epre edema NPP amanyoko no na kyerese na isi ni kyerese wadi nkunim ewo mpesua so kwa wi ache NDC pania wo pre akogya no ede ema mpesua no yewura Henry Buachi Adom si debida wanti asie kwa wi ache no wo maso ebepie mu ewo tesa no ye police training school hodmo eno mbekenkan ya ba no eno mo san di nkunimdie no ekodema NS yakumi ya wo pre edema NPP amanyoko no ese wono ena adi nkudem nanso nei no yewura Henry atabiri asem no akopie mu ewo koforidua high court ama ne court akwa asem no eso asetena yakwa ma ne so na ya ne ya ma ne boni Ebenezer Frimpong obuto apoye mantem eni sa asem we mu enkobo Ebenezer memwa ha
Yeah, ni adase ma.
Yo, ene ko Florida High Court 3 ekwa asetena yewura NS yakumi asem a ekoso no eso ne edie ne koso ewo court dan no emo.
No, another day wabra temwa for his lordship George Akuffo Addo Akuffo High Court 2 etnase no. Na ensema ebeto gase yakumi. Na no de ebeto gase yabato commissioner dina tum say o meyem na shedigani ewo akwatia bato person no. Dia na no eduada na hotupepe na NDC amayoku legal team no bo modian be file injunction say enya dia ene dia na sibijafo ye beje na sibijafo atum se ombe na sibijam swearing of MPs no enya dia e wo se omoji owura NDC akumi tumwe no ne fiada no NDC akumi lawyer as be file application said there because on hwe no kwase injunction ye dia to NDC akumi so na no adai ana mpinifo bo modia etna assembly so nanso otemwa 40 akunyam chirima na otwen order efi chief justice wansa na eno ada no wetini ebu asem na so wetini edi asem no na eno ada no order no entimi chief justice chen amaiten otna asem so na otna asem so no some two court na sa omanfo ani bi say ade a mbisa na say asem ya kumi lawyers edi to na ni say onhwe na onkwase injunction na wodre pepe dia to no net ni kwan so obedi na tum na swede no enya de obetumi ade atum efi say nsama na say nyina so a potia NS yakun lawyers edi bae no enya de enwu edunti enya de obedi atum me no ka say de enya de amle no obetimi agye nsp ya okumi atum se oyem na se bibani e wa akwatia kopem na fu adu a obefi asem na se no waka no wahwete bia asem na omo de aba betu ga no nyina so ma na se nyina so ni mansa na wetimi agye na atum se oyem na se bibani eno atikura no ba fanti akwa no fa eye owura haruna apel redu so na ono so sem ebuboba ni na agina se eye pesa no eye bato konsina djuma ya anu dano eye ade ana emfunso wo ho na abato commissioner echirima ono edikan age eye owura haruna apel wadma ye presiding officer a wo eye fanti akwa no no odikan declare owura haruna apel se ono ana ye kendifo na so ye wina abato e course na anu dey na so eno na abato kande betu biase mfunso kakra o nje won san sa niema ni na se pinsi niema na emla tesano na na ho so mo san ko jire ma eye betu biase owura akobia ana wedi kan no 2 franc NPP amayokunu na wedi kan no na nti asanya duma ye de bepie me Akuffo dia akota ene den so otemuafo no jire ma asem we de so seno ni na agina se sabi obi a ofi eye fanti akwa no fo eye begro na nabusuafo na ewo ho eye na yire ene ne mma ne abusuafo na na ya de a eho ana wote enti enya de a obetini atena sa asem no so etimi ebu elisa fe no mienu na no mitira NDC NPP etitaifo ni na no omu na eye nabusuafo enti otire ma we de asem na jeso de combative justice na o ma na kwanchere so obenwo otemuafo foforo atena asem so adia na wahwe na bibia etimi akonka enti eno so njanse a eda owura kodua so no ene den so enya de amremu no party akwanof ibitimi agena tumi so o emna se bedwani etimi ewo disa ebe asema odi ene den no yenu na enya de bitimi aso in akwatia ya kunya na Africa kwano ura kodua a no so ewo party akwanof
yo ya beda se mo wani eni akire pa emfa emanti na era NS ya okumi eni pani a wono epre ye ofanti akwanof ma NPP ankunimde komo me na parliament se ye ko sorry in 9th parliament no nya de a wom ebeko bi kopem se court no ebeko so asetina ebewi nti amani boni ebeneza frimpon na ye no edin komo efri apoye mantem no emu
yo insam no egusua etwagu no chase ano edene pay in some no enya agro but eja election no aftermath no chese ayese bola sujano esoro na dum so ase edere mesre so subscribe jubedi and share nema afofro enso ensa enka be kindly click on the notification bell no so send be ya ye the any news be able to platform no so awon so wo hunu de air call any de air ba na in some no etwagu a ekosona no eye enenso no Bagbin ekasaye ewo eye mrahye bedwafie ene anopeya na eye dwumasono sonku bia ekoso ho museum bia eye omabie ewo eye parliament ho no mo ene Bagbin ede ensem bebre to na obo a brief history about eye the parliament no ene ode ensem dodo na no etudwa yenko ne yenkokote ensem eye yewra Bagbin ede tudwa
to not only celebrate our past, but also envision the role of history in shaping our democratic journey. This museum stands as a testament to not only to the pillars of democracy that support our way of governance, but also to the enduring spirit of Ghanaian tradition and identity forged through ages past. In the words of Robert Hesling, an American author, a generation which ignores history has no past and no future. This underscores the importance of history in our life. Our own Nelson Mandela tells us that our rich and varied cultural heritage has a profound power to help build our nation. And so our history, though turbulent, is a very rich one which we must preserve and promote for the benefit of the younger generation and those yet unborn. The youth and prosperity must appreciate where we have come from as a nation This will serve as a useful lesson to avoid the mistakes of the past. The trajectory of our political history derives its source from how our society was organized prior to the arrival of the European explorers and traders who named our land Gold Coast. And that is a translation into English. The Portuguese did not call us Gold Coast. They call us by the name what land? Who can tell me? This is how important history is. Del Mina. And the first people arrived as Shama in 1471. So you can see the cross there at Shama. The trajectory of our political history, as I said, derives its source from our society, which was organized prior to the arrival of the European explorers and traders who named our land the Gold Coast del Mina. This was followed by centuries of the despicable transatlantic slave trade through to the era of colonial rule. The resilience of our forefathers and their determination to reclaim self-rule led to a series of agitations and reactions that culminated in our political independence in 1957. Our beloved country finally attained Republican status in 1960. The struggle did not end there. The country was yet to grapple with a series of coups that toppled the first, second, and third republics until the country's eventual return to constitutional rule in 1993. We don't need any evidence to tell us that what concerns us must be decided by us all. One of the main reasons why the 1992 Constitution stayed up to date is because it was the decision of all of us, not by any group in the society. Everybody matters in life. And we all drafted it together, and we all took the decision in the referendum, and we all felt that we are part and parcel of that document, and so we all decided to obey it. And that is how come, and that I said, one of the reasons why we have broken the jinx, and we've been along this path for 32 good years now. Throughout these periods, Parliament has had its own unique history. The struggle for legislative inclusion and participation in governance dates as far back as the pre-colonial and the colonial era, when leading citizens of the Gold Coast agitated and demanded for the colonial government to allow for citizens' representation in decision-making processes. The Legislative Council was first established in the Gold Coast in 1866 to advise the colonial administration on enacting laws. It was, however, not until the 1888 that the first African unofficial member, John Saba, was nominated to the council. Don't forget that John Mensah Saba was the first full-blooded Ghanaian to be called to the bar. in 1887 as a lawyer. But before that, there was one Rėjėct who was called to the bar in 1883. But his background was Portuguese, Brazil, and Gold Coast. The two families have been debating it. This is good information to the two families. And so if you talk about full-blooded Ghanaian who was called to the bar, is John Mensah Saba, 1887. But you talk about a Ghanaian, you can call half-blooded or one-third blooded, but he was a Ghanaian. He is Rėjėct, who was called to the bar 1883. And I'm talking about being called in UK, not in Accra or anywhere in the Gold Coast. I know why I'm emphasizing this, because the two families have gotten in touch with me when I made a statement on the floor in Parliament on this matter. So I want it to be clarified. The John Mensah Saba was the one who led the establishment of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society. And so he was the first African unofficial member nominated to the council. After several years of changes in the composition and structure of the council, the National Assembly was established upon the attainment of independence. These developments present a rich historical information for the establishment of a museum. The year 2023 marked exactly 3 decades of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy in Ghana. To commemorate this significant feat, Parliament, under my leadership, embarked on a series of programs and activities across the country to interact with citizens and bring Parliament closer to the doorsteps of the people. We watched admiration, the enthusiasm with which Ghanaians came out in their numbers to participate in the games, the health walks, the mock parliaments, and the fora that we held. And very critical questions were asked about Parliament, about governance, and about development. Distinguished participants, we live in a world driven by an insatiable quest for knowledge. Our rich history has been but a whisper, an untold story, yearning for an audience. This museum stands not merely as a collection of relics. It is a chronicle of courage, a chronicle of sacrifice, and a chronicle of fervent hope of the people. Each exhibit in this museum will remind us of our journey, where we started, the trial.
Yo, Jumadie no Pompon so nyina ha. Any de Jumadie no ABC Eddie Amamo. Unsubscribe ya subscribe share Jumadie no like na ma for and so and sanka be kindly click on the notification bell so send a ID any news be at platform so I won so wonu de air call and the air but eja de da ko so ya ni P3. There's more stories coming out yede be brem unti yenko yakramo.